Hey, this is Leo for Actualized.org. Have you ever run across a person, that crazy person walking down the side of the street who's always talking to himself? I don't know, maybe you're like me, but you had one of these kids in school that everyone picked at and laughed at because they literally were like the crazy person. They were like that schizophrenic kid who was the loner, nobody wanted to talk to him, and he would be off walking around, always whispering to himself, literally talking to himself, and people thought he was just plain weird and crazy, and everyone laughed at him. Kind of sad, right? But this stuff happens. Well, I'm here to tell you that you need to be more like that guy. What do I mean by this? Well, I was thinking about this, and there's an important thing that as we grow up and we become adults, we tend to start to discount. As I think, as kids, we have a stronger sense of reality, a stronger sense of inner reality than we do as adults. Because as we grow up as adults, we tend to become very hooked on external feedback and being very conscious of having the outer world reflect and basically dictate what our inner world is going to be like. And I think the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, and also really genius people and creative people, is that successful and genius and creative people, they tend to have a really strong sense of reality. So what I really want for you, and this is something that I just realized for myself as well, is that I lost a bit of my sense of inner reality. So let's start from the beginning. Basically, the way we're going to lay this out is that you have an inner world, an inner reality, and then you have an outer world, which is outer reality. And in society, we tend to think, and as we grow up as adults, we tend to think that the inner world is not so important. What's important is the outer world. What's important is how much money do you have in your bank account. What's important is what do people actually think of you. What's important is, can you go out there and get a result? Can you demonstrate this? Can you create that kind of effect in your life? That's what's important, right? The external success, or what people think of you. But there's also the more subtle, important which is the inner reality that you have. And the inner reality is, well, it's your beliefs, it's your emotions, it's your feelings, it's your thoughts, it's how you think the world works, it's your philosophy about life, it's the principles under which you operate, it's the habits that you have, it's also the visions that you set for yourself. And I think visions is a really big part of what I'm talking about here, because it's the ability to use your imagination to create something in your mind and have it be there and buy into it. Not just say that, oh, this is a daydream or a fantasy, but really believe in it. Because here's the thing, the greatest accomplishments that are achieved out in the external world have to start somewhere. They have to start in the internal world. Every creative genius out there, from business leaders like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, to architects and artists and authors and movie directors and musicians, anybody like that, they have to start to get those massive kind of results that they have to start with something inside them first. That stuff doesn't exist before they come and create it. And the process of creating that is about having a very strong internal vision, a very strong sense of what is possible, and then believing in that, right? And I think that in popular culture and in media and in society, our parents, etc., in business, when we tell people that we have a strong imagination or a strong vision, they tend to think, they tend to discount that. Because external people will look at us and will say, well, he has a vision, but what does that vision really account for? What does that really mean? What really matters is whether it's materialized in the external world, whether it's here and now, and I can feel it, it's tangible. But those people discount the importance of the imagination part in the inner world. It's the inner world that gets you going, right? So if you envision architecting some sort of beautiful building, how does that process start? It starts in your mind. It starts as some sort of mental image. It starts as a vision. And moreover, if you're going to go through with creating that, going through that project and designing it and actually getting a team of thousands of workers to go out and build that skyscraper. How's that going to happen? That's only going to happen through a certain perseverance. You're going to have a certain motivation, because there's going to be a lot of challenges and obstacles getting that to become realized. And so the way to do that, and to really make it happen, the people that are able to make it happen, they have to have a really firm belief. And that firm belief comes from something inside of them. That comes from a certain vision that they have. They're inspired by what could be. They're inspired by how they can change reality into a likeness of what's in their mind. So it really starts as an idea, and then only years later does it get manifest into something tangible. And most people, of course, discount that whole process because that's happening on the inside. And that's really what a lot of the struggles that creative people face, is that they face all the emotional toil and labor of going through that process, because that process mostly happens on the inside and other people don't see it. So you're kind of left to struggle there on your own. So what I want for you here, and the prescription that I have, is you need to turn this thing upside down, and you need to start to recondition yourself to believe that having a strong internal reality is really important. And I was thinking about a good analogy for this, and I think that a good one is augmented reality. All right, so you know how right now there's some new technologies out there. They have augmented reality for your iPhone and for apps for mobile devices. They're kind of in the experimental phases. And they also have augmented reality for this thing called Google Glass, which are like these little glasses that you put on. And what it basically does is you're in the real world, but then there's like an overlay, right? There's like a digital overlay, and sometimes you can see this in science fiction movies where people are walking around the world, and then you have like overlays. Like maybe the computer will tell you that that thing that you're looking at, that chair you're looking at, that's a chair from IKEA and it costs $25, and here's the name, and here's where you can buy it, and here's a buy it now button, so you can go through that whole process. And so it's basically like a digital layer over reality. And that's what I kind of see the mind as being. It's like the original augmented reality, right? And I really mean this in a much deeper sense than just use your imagination to come up with some fiction. I really think that human consciousness and reality, as we know it, we tend to say that reality is out there, it's tangible, and there's also the kind of the delusions we have in our mind. But I think that really that distinction is a lot more blurred than we make it out to be in popular culture. I think that actually the human mind is responsible for a lot of what we call reality and what we think. And when you go through enlightenment work and you go through a lot of meditation, contemplation, you start to see some of these distinctions blur. And really what's happening is that right now, your reality is already augmented by your mind. It's already augmented and colored by filters that you have. It's colored by the experiences you had growing up, by the habits that you have, the mental habits that you have, your own disposition. And so really, what you're experiencing as reality, even though you're telling yourself that that's what's real, it's not quite as real as you think it is. A lot of that is augmented, right? When you're looking at your life and you're saying, well, I can't start a business because the economy's not going well. Well, you know what? That's a filter that's filtering your reality. So you're living in an augmented reality world, whether you like it or not. And in that sense, what I really want for you is I want for you to, first of all, acknowledge that. And it takes some experiences, some contemplation, maybe some life experiences that trigger this kind of sense, this sixth sense in you, that really a lot of what you're seeing out there and what you think is real is partly a fabrication of your own mind. The trick though, when it comes to success and fulfillment and personal development, is that you want to start to use that to your advantage. So why not have an augmented reality that helps you be successful? And by that I mean, really take your own visions seriously. Start to view your own thoughts and your own habits and your own imagination as something that's real. Right? Because you know what? Right now, you're using it already, whether you acknowledge it or not. And you're probably using it in an unempowering, negative way. Like you're worrying all the time, you're having that monkey chatter in your brain, you're having self-doubts, you're having all sorts of limiting beliefs, and you probably don't even consciously realize it until you start observing yourself. But you know what? Those things are going on in the back of your mind. Even if you've done a lot of personal development work, it's really hard to eradicate all of that. So that's there. And one thing you can do is you can undertake and basically undertake a process to eradicate those and to shift them and to become more positive, more optimistic, to remove those limiting beliefs, I think that's a really powerful strategy. You can work on your self-image, things like that. But what I'm talking about here is getting a firmer sense and I guess a deeper connection with your imagination, and not seeing your imagination as something that's frivolous and seeing it as something that's airy-fairy, but really starting to believe in it. Like that schizophrenic kid walking down the sidewalk who's a little bit nuts. Why is he so nuts? Think about it. The reason he's nuts, and the reason that we look at him and we're like, ooh, there's something wrong there, he's a little bit weird, I don't know if I want to go talk to him, it's because he has a really strong sense of inner reality, right? The things that are going on in his mind are literally true for him. It's like whatever demons he sees out there, whatever conspiracy theories he has, whatever monsters he imagines, they're very real, they're very palpable. Whereas for a normal person who's not schizophrenic or has psychological problems, just a psychologically healthy person, for them, we tend to think of something like that and then we dismiss it because we're like, well, that's not real, that's just like a dream, it's a fantasy. I think that's healthy, that's good, but I think for a psychologically healthy person, it actually is good to learn to be a little bit more like the schizophrenic. And obviously, if you are schizophrenic or you have mental issues, then advice is not for you. You need to go the other route. But I'm talking about the 99% of people who are psychologically healthy. For them, I think they need a stronger sense of internal reality, right? When you imagine, for example, for yourself, the kind of business that you want to build, or the kind of book that you want to write, and the story of that book, or the kind of movie that you want to go out and shoot, wherever your dream is, right? Whatever you want for your life. When you imagine it, I want you to really feel it as something that's real. Those thoughts should become real for you. It shouldn't be like a minor dream or a fantasy. It's like you want to really buy into it, like that schizophrenic, and you want to almost kind of like live it, and you're like, yeah, this is real. And you don't want to say to yourself, well, it's only real in my mind, and it's not real in the external world yet. That's how it's supposed to be, right? That's normal. That's how it starts off. That's how creativity gets going. That's what's cool about the human mind, is that we have this faculty of imagination that is really not possessed, as far as we know, by any other creature on this planet. No other animal really has this ability to dream and to imagine and to believe in something so much that then that guides our actions and ultimately can lead to that becoming real. So there's this interesting argument that could be made that it is real because it's in your mind and it's as real as you make it out to be. So that schizophrenic makes it really real for himself because he buys into it. Whereas for you, it's not probably as real because you dismiss it as something, as a figment of imagination.